let's go with the spices here. As I promised, Kalpasi first, Marathi Mukha. Black pepper, which I'll be using about a teaspoon of that. Coriander seeds, plenty of those will be needed. I've got cinnamon, some cloves, some red chili powder, some whole chilies as well, cardamom, star anise, and so does fennel. Some ginger garlic paste. I got some roasted chana dal, chana lentil, turmeric powder, white poppy seeds, curry leaves, some tomatoes, onion, duck, and plenty of coconut milk. Right, now I'm going to start adding spices to toast them lightly. So I'll start with coriander seeds, black pepper. I'll use about 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds as well, a couple of star anise, 8 to 10 cardamom, 1 red chili, 1.5 inches of cinnamon stick, and about 5 to 6 cloves, 3 pieces of Marathi Mukha, half of Kalpasi, so about 3 or 4 pieces of Kalpasi, and poppy seeds, about 2 tablespoons, and I'll toast them all lightly. The idea of toasting is not only to activate the oils and the spices, but also to harden them a bit, because when we blend them, it's better that the spices are slightly tougher so the blade can cut through them. And I've not added any oil. It's done just on the dry non-stick pan. Okay, that's done. Well, I'm going to use a normal blender, but you could use a coffee blender or a spice blender if you have one. So this is quite coarse. I can strain it and then it'll work well for me. But what I'm going to do is add about 1.5 teaspoons of turmeric powder to this. There was no point adding turmeric powder earlier because I was just toasting the spices and powdering them. But now it's done and I'll use this. Right, let's start marinating the duck. So I'll add 1.5 teaspoons of ginger garlic paste, lime or lemon you can use. Don't need too much of it because don't need to break down the muscle of duck too harshly. There's no need for it. Pinch of red chili powder, just about 1/2 tablespoon of the spice powder, and I'll just mix it all together. I'll add a little bit of oil as well. And there's a way to marinate the duck, and that is I'm not going to put the marinade on the skin side, just on the inside. Right, so what I have here is 2 pieces of duck breasts which have been crisscrossed on the skin purely to lose the fat, to render the meat easily and nicely. And to make it easy, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Because if I add the spices, if I add the marinade now, while I'm rendering the meat, the spices will get burned and it won't do any good. Slightly different way of making it. I'm not going into making a curry, chopping everything and putting it straight into the sauce, which is a little boring way of doing. So I'm just cooking the duck separately with the same spices, but we'll bring it back with the sauce and the accompaniment. Now, this process takes good 10-15 minutes. You have to be patient. You cannot do it at very high heat. It has to be slow to medium heat. So right now I'm at slightly higher heat. I just want skin to get seared up, and then I'm going to drop down and let the fat come out of the skin. Just the flesh below the skin and between the skin, there's a lot of fat, and that fat needs to be rendered. That's very important, otherwise your duck will be very fatty. And remember, I didn't add any fat to the pan because duck has got plenty of fat of its own. To make the sauce, I'll start with vegetable oil or sunflower oil, about 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to start with some star anise and couple of cardamoms, few black peppers, and I'll fry this chili and take it out. Some Kalpasi and just 1 Marathi muka. The oil is hot. Throw all that in. As this sizzles, beautiful flavor, beautiful, beautiful flavor. The chili is quite strong, so I'm just going to pull it out, just get the flavor in the oil and get it out. Onions can go in. I could have added a little bit of fennel, never too late. Just about half a teaspoon. One medium onion, sliced, and a pinch of salt. So I have to caramelize this onion till they are pretty much brown in color before adding the spice powder and then adding the coconut milk and tomatoes. Tomatoes first and then coconut milk. Simmer it through and leave it on the side. The sauce is pretty much ready, and then I will go on to cook the duck, finish the duck in the oven. But before I go any further, I should add my curry leaves. They're cooking really well, the onion, curry leaves and the spices, and there'll be soon time to add the spice powder. So now there is some roasted chana dal. I could have added that into the spice powder, but I'll add it in the sauce to get a nice crunch with that. And I got some desiccated coconut that also goes in here. Even this could have been in part of the powder, but it's okay. It goes in the sauce, gives that beautiful flavor. We're pretty much there with this, and I'll add the spice powder. I could have caramelized the onions a little bit more, but I think this is quite fine. I would like to keep it a little textureful. Love, love, love this spice mix. It's fantastic. I'm generally not into praising my own food, but this is just amazing. I can't stop it. Turmeric powder, just to get more enhanced yellow color. Before the spices get burned, I'll quickly add about 1.5 chopped tomatoes, a little bit of water to seize the cooking. Now this sauce is looking beautiful to me. I love it. Fantastic. A pinch of salt, just to correct. We'll come back to check it in a bit again. And coconut milk. It's quite thick. We'll add almost 3/4 of it. Keep some and we'll come back to add the rest. And look at that rich yellow color which I desired. Beautiful. Just going to drop the temperature and let it simmer slowly, because coconut milk, you cannot boil it vigorously, otherwise it will split, especially with the tomato in there. Now let's check on the, look at that. It's cooking really well. It's looking good. I'll keep it there. And we started with no oil in this pan. And look at that, the amount of oil which has come out. It's all from the duck. I'm going to take this oil out. What I have here is duck pretty much rendered, fat almost out. Skin is almost ready in my opinion. I can finish that in the oven, which will be good. So all I want to do now is marinate the duck before I put it in the oven. The oven is at 200 degrees centigrade. Take that onto the tray. Got plenty of spoons here. A little bit of oil to go in. Forgot to add the salt. That goes in. It's pretty much like a spice rub which goes on. So what I'm trying to do is basically trying to compensate the spices which I haven't added in there. And funny thing is, I won't be making a curry out of the duck. It's a kind of combination of roast duck. So just a few minutes on this side, and then I'm going to flip it over and finish it on the skin side. Oven is really hot. It's at 200 degrees centigrade. It'll take about good 10 to 15 minutes to cook the duck into medium. And if you fancy duck to be really well cooked, then hang on and cook for 20 plus minutes, I would say 20-25. I fancy medium, so I'll be keeping one as medium and one as fully cooked. So that goes in. My sauce needs to come to a boil. I'll get the duck out. I should rest it for a few minutes before I cut it, and that's what exactly I'm going to do now. Here's my duck, and it is ready. Now, look at that. The skin is nice. The meat is cooked perfectly in my opinion. I would take it out and rest it here. There you go. Right, while it rests, I'll get ready with my vermicelli upma and everything on the plate. Come to a good boil. This is ready, and I'll cut that. It's hot. Look, it's slightly pink. It may be objectionable to a lot of people. Look at that. But trust me, it's absolutely cooked. It's perfectly cooked. Beyond this, actually duck will be overcooked in my opinion. Okay, I'll just go on to cut it. I'm just going to cut into 3 or 4 pieces. It's actually still setting in. The juices are still running out. We'll remove that. Put the duck nicely on top. And we'll just pour the sauce on the side and just a little bit on top. Wipe it clean before you send it out to the customer. Very important, plates have to look nice and clear. Some curry leaves which have been fried, deep fried, and a little bit of cress on top. To put it simply, this is duck madras, but done in a very light and a fashionable way, which will go a long way and you'll really enjoy it. Let me tell you what I did to prepare this recipe. So first of all, I started with rendering my duck. So I had the duck with skin on, the 2 breasts I had. I put a little salt, really hot pan, and I put the skin side down and let it cook. To make the spice powder, I toasted all the spices, which was a 1.5 teaspoon of coriander seeds, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1.5 teaspoon of fennel seeds, about 5 to 8 green cardamom, and a red chilli. So I added cinnamon stick, Marathi muka, Kalpasi, and then I had poppy seeds. I toasted all that together and then made a powder. Now to make the sauce, I started with 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and I sauteed the whole spices, and then followed by medium onion sliced, sauteed that till it was almost light brown in color, and then followed that by spice powder which I had made, and sauteed the spices When spices were almost dry, I added some tomatoes and I spiked up with a little bit more turmeric in here. So just to keep nice yellow color. And then I went on to add coconut milk. And I let it simmer for a while and added a little water. Coming back to the duck breast which has been sitting and rendering, I removed the duck breast from the pan and I made a marinade with 1 tablespoon of ginger garlic paste and the spice powder, little lemon juice and oil. I brushed the duck breast with that paste, not on the skin side, and then put it in the hot oven at 200 degrees centigrade for a good 12 to 15 minutes, I would say. Take it out, let it rest for about 5 minutes before you actually carve it.